Do I record on my phone? I can't remember. What do I
No,
do?
so now I just record everything
Cole.
on
This is a professional production here.
No.
Stepped up.
So
didn't
we're
he?
gonna have to ask you to put your shirt on. I'm kidding.
No.
I'm leaving.
Actually, yeah, it's much better with folks. This is Futro Hidden Movie Gems
What?
podcast. This is the Futro Hidden Movie Gems podcast. I'm your host, Ty Spiker Christensen. If you ride like lightning, you're gonna crash like thunder. Can't do my bends.
Dude, I love
feel
his
like I'm
performance in this.
gargling gravel. Yeah. And we got Jordan Christensen on the podcast.
Oh, I should have had a quote ready. Hello.
First time,
Just-
Jordan.
Yeah, first
No,
time on the
I didn't-
podcast.
I didn't have a quote ready. You guys can just go.
It's a movie quote.
No, let's linger on this a little bit longer. We're not going to let Jordan off the hook that easy. Just kidding. Cameron Mickles on the podcast.
He can stay. He can get his own girl and his own kid. That's every man's right.
And we have back returning for the third time, Cole Davis.
I'm trying to think of something. Jim Carrey. That's you stepped in. That's and that explains the abrasion on your palm. Is that what we're doing?
Well, we were going to quote. You did watch A Place Beyond the Pines, right? This is a.
Oh, that's what you were recording.
You just our favorite quote from the movie.
You didn't brief me.
Oh, wait.
sorry.
And a few things have
I'm
changed.
recording When Nature Calls, Ace Ventura. So
Well, we should probably enlighten our listeners and our viewers. So, Cole, this is not only an audio recording podcast. We now have the video up and live. So maybe you knew that, maybe you didn't. I just thought I'd let you know that. Yeah. So as you are, you're going out into the world. So
oh, it's
just wait
also
for the
video?
calls. Just wait for the calls and the offers
Wait,
to be
is
rolling.
this video?
See, that's what I'm saying. I had a sneaking suspicion he didn't know. I'm sorry. If you want, we can start over, but
No.
I'm good.
okay.
That's
He's
sexy.
proud of it, guys. He's letting it. All right. Folks, let's get into it. We're reviewing a little movie called The Place Beyond the Pines. This movie came out quite a while ago, 2012. Do you remember? I must have missed this. I was
When the
serving a
world was supposed to
mission.
end.
Yeah, dude. Anyway, so this movie was directed.
It was over a decade, which is crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy, right? Time flies. So it was directed by Derek Cianfrance, if I'm saying his name right. Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not. And it stars Bradley Cooper, Ryan Gosling, Ava Mendes, a few other characters.
His
Who
now
else is-
wife.
There was some
they're married.
Ben, dude. Is it pronounced Mendelsohn?
It's got Mahershala Ali. I think he was in this.
The
Ben
guy
Mendelsohn. Yes. Ben
Yes,
Mendelsohn.
he is so
The guy
good.
quoted. Yes.
I love him from Mississippi Grind. So good.
Yeah, that's a good movie. We should be reviewing that on the podcast too. So guys, what was it like watching this movie for the first time and rewatching it for the podcast? Let's start with you, Cole.
This is on my top movie list, which I think is at 9 right now.
Dang.
And I've watched it now twice, and it was such usually my favorite movies are such surprises. I didn't know anything going in, and I love this movie so much because it's so simple, so everyday, but I'm so invested in the characters, the generational relationships, and I'm so interested in the acting. Specifically, what got it to my top list is Bradley Cooper, Avery's discussion with, help me, is it a senior police officer or is it a mental health specialist? But that scene is some of the best acting I've ever seen from him. And then he got on my top male actors list from that.
Yeah. It
So
is funny. It really showcases his acting ability. And I don't even think of this movie often when I think of Bradley Cooper. I always think of Hangover, Limitless, other movies that he
Silver
stars
Lining
in. This one
Playbook.
yeah.
He really shines in that.
Yeah. But it's just interesting that I don't even associate this movie with it. And maybe it's because he's almost overshadowed with the whole Ryan Gosling plot line. And then obviously tail end, he's kind of in the middle. And obviously he's not necessarily everybody's hero in this movie. So he's mine. No, I'm kidding.
At
Team
the
Bradley
end,
Cooper, no, I'm kidding.
I definitely want to hear your top 10 list. And then also,
Yeah.
I'm curious, on a rewatch, do you feel like it got better, worse, or just stayed the same?
Same.
Okay.
Didn't get better. I just think, I mean, there's so many great things that you just get to experience the first time in that movie. So that's why it's so good to just give 100% attention to every movie that you see, because you never know.
Well, I just didn't know if it moved up or down on your top 10 list.
Oh, it's not numerized.
Oh.
I'll have to numerize it now on this podcast. Put
Absolutely.
peanut butter down.
It's time for real talk. All right, Cameron, how about you, man? What was it like watching this movie for the first time or watching it for the pod?
Yeah, watching for the first time, I didn't know what to expect. I thought it was gonna be a Ryan Gosling movie, and then I was like I didn't even know that Bradley Cooper was in it. And so I saw like cop was like, is that Bradley Cooper? I was like, no way, that's wild. And then I was like, oh wow, this is a Bradley Cooper movie. Because so the first time watching it is a little jarring because I felt like two movies that were just like and I was like, what is going on? But I enjoyed it overall. I honestly felt like three different plot lines that were like melded together. And it as soon as it finished, I was like, oh, that like was much more cohesive than like 2/3 in the movie. I was like, I don't really understand what the whole first 57 minutes was about. Like, I'm like, why was Ryan Gosling in this movie if this is like all about Bradley Cooper? But then like throughout the connection of it all, I was pretty impressed. And rewatching it, I actually enjoyed it a little bit more, just knowing kind of how abrupt and like jarring a little bit the split of the movie is. And it's funny because I watched it with my roommates, and the first time I remember being really sad, but like after watching movies like Blue Valentine, which I do recommend to you, Cole, because it's just like,
hey, don't just assume I haven't seen it. How about you ask me first? Yeah, I've seen Blue Valentine with Ryan Gosling. I know the whole ukulele scene. It was improvised, or not improvised. It was hidden their talent. Yeah, I know things. I watch.
Look at you. So similar to that, like I remember the first time watching.
Oh, it's actually currently stalking Ryan Gosling.
Cameron, you know that's the same director, right?
Oh, really? That makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's because it's got a very similar feel, and it's just almost like, it's funny. The second time viewing it, I almost see it as less sad. Maybe it's after watching Blue Valentine, but I was just like so impressed with, like, it just feels very real. And I just like the second time coming away with that, I also think it's a lot more hopeful. I feel like, because the first time when I saw that scene with Bradley Cooper and his son, I was just like, I was like, dude, your son's such a loser. And then I was also like, Bradley Cooper's kind of a sleazebag. But like after watching it a second time, I honestly think it's much more hopeful with like the message of like, you do what you can, like you do the best that you can with like complicated relationships and like family. So I really enjoyed it on the second watch.
I feel about being on the podcast with you. Just do the best you can with family.
Complicated family, nonetheless.
Yeah, you just have to deal with what you're given, right? Dude, that reminds me of Guardians 3. Yeah, I've got one of those.
Boss's kid.
Boss's kid.
That's the
Nepotism.
worst. I thought you said something else.
I thought you were talking about something else. Yeah. Anyway. Oh gosh. Jordan, how about you, man? What was it like watching this movie for the first time and rewatching it for the pod?
So I guess I had completely forgotten about it, which I actually love those kinds of movies, because on my second rewatch, I was like, wait a minute, because Bradley Cooper showed up as the cop. And I'm like, I thought it was gonna jump forward and Bradley Cooper was the kid that had grown up. So I'd completely forgotten about this movie, but I did enjoy it. I mean, I remember enjoying it the first time, but I did like it better on this watch because there was a lot more I took in this time. I love this director's like color palette. It kind of feels very much like, I mean, somewhat like Blade Runner 2049, which is funny because the main character is in it as well. I love that cool tone. It just like when he's in the theme park and it's perfect.
Circus or whatever.
Yeah. Because there was a shot where they're like looking at each other and the Ferris wheel's right behind them. I was just like, oh, this is beautiful. I just love the look of the movie.
The director is like, or like in the cinematography, there's a lot of like unweighted shots, or just like there's like not a lot going on. Like even just like the opening shot of following him through, it's just like there's not like no dialogue, well, or just like background dialogue, and it's just like you just kind of see like what it feels like to be like in his shoes for like 2 minutes, which I think is so cool and just like so effortless that you're like, oh wow, yeah.
I do remember being very bummed though that I kind of
Ryan Gosling dies.
Thank you. Yeah, I just like, oh no, not only because it's like incredibly sad, but also I don't know if I want to say the tone changed, but like it's like almost Cameron mentioned it, taking a different turn. So it's like you really connected with this character and you're excited to follow him. And it's like, oh, it's over. Now it's time to follow somebody else. So,
but then rebirth from his son. Okay, so this movie has 3 acts. I was the one that introduced y'all to this movie. I don't know about Cole.
I watched it on my own. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, slow down. I recommended this to you and Jordan a long time ago.
well,
when I
ages
saw
ago,
it.
but
Ages. Yeah. It's the
Yeah.
first time. And Cameron revitalized our passion for this because I forgot about this movie too. I watched this like around the time I watched Good Time with Robert Pattinson by the Safdie brothers. A good combo watch because they're both really stressful. They kind of have that same manic, the bank heist.
Not even
is
close
so-
as stressful.
Well, okay. I mean, yeah, Uncut Gems and
Crime.
Good Time are
Stressful
some of the most-
crime.
yeah, suspenseful crime and again, like a heist movie. I was gonna say, like the bank heist is like a whole part of this movie, and Ryan Gosling, he's really not that intimidating, which is kind of why I really like that scene. But he's trying his darndest. That's such a great scene. But
really,
yeah,
you didn't think he was unhinged when he like shoved the gun in the guy's mouth? It's like, open your mouth.
Yeah, that was insane.
It was insane.
I thought he
but
might
it's just
shoot
like,
him.
yeah, like
No, I thought it was definitely more realistic. It felt like he didn't know what he was doing when he was
Yeah.
robbing the bank.
yeah,
Oh,
he
yeah.
was all over the place. Yeah, his
It
voice
sounds like
cracks.
girly, you're
yeah,
like-
yeah. He's like,
Are you good?
which is like,
Look
you
at me,
think
face on
he'd
the ground.
yeah, like in movies like Wrath of Man, you got all these hulking, towering Russian dudes that are like, "Give me the money in the bag." Sound like Sylvester Stallone there. I don't know why, but this one it's like high pitched, frantic. The money, man. I just
It kind of
loved
reminded
it.
me of The Nice Guys.
Yeah. See, and it's funny you say it because like I look at Ryan Gosling's whole body of work and I'm like, this just fits so well with like
He's got
what
so
an
much
interesting
range.
person. Yeah, what an interesting character, like a circus performer, motorcyclist, stuntman, riding around in that cage. And so yeah, there's a lot of movies that this makes me think of, but
Turns bank robber baby daddy. What a
bank-
line.
so I mentioned Good Time, but I also thought of the movie Drive, also with Ryan Gosling, and
Yeah.
I just think there's a lot of similarities, like this, like melancholy. You're almost like in another life. Like I just feel like he's had a really rough upbringing, but he's like a very meek person. I just get that vibe from him, and he does a good job in this. Like you see him and his actual wife Ava Mendes and their kid, and they're just like very sweet, and you're just like, I'd love to see him provide a really good life for this family, but you're just like, I mean, how much money is there in cage motorcycling, So, it's just a really cool story. And then watching in the third act, the effects of the decisions that are made at the end of the first act leading into the second act. So love that. And rewatching it was thrilling because I forgot largely a lot of this movie. So that definitely was wonderful. So I, like you, Jordan, was like, wait, what's going to happen? Because I remember it feeling like 3 parts and I was like, oh, it starts with a big bang, out the window. So anyway, very, very cool. So not too many movies that I feel like it almost feels like an
Bradley
epic.
Cooper shot first.
Yeah, Bradley Cooper did
I
shoot
stand with
first.
Ryan Gosling.
Yeah. See, now I get the whole Han Solo debate, right? It's a big deal. Who shoots first? It's pretty low. You're not supposed to fire unless fired upon, or he felt like, and I think Ryan Gosling was really, I don't think he meant any harm. And then yeah, he fired after he's literally like falling out the window. So anyway.
See, but it could be argued that because he was calling, he was saying goodbye because he knew that he was going to go on a blaze of glory. So,
yeah, I think he was just going to go away for a long time, and that's a very disappointing. So, folks, let's get
There's
into 2 of
phones
our
in jail.
favorite things. Cole, why don't you
Not in
start us
hell.
off? 2 of your favorite things from this movie.
I'd really love to hear what you're saying sometimes, but Cameron just needs to shut up. 2 of my favorite things about this movie.
Yeah, 2 of your favorite things.
Well, I already
maybe if
teased
you
you.
just listen better, Cole.
Ah,
Well, and I know you mentioned something about Bradley Cooper's
setup.
acting.
I guess that's what I need if I'm going to be on this.
We're all a little salty and yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Love you guys. I already said it, so that's why it stands out to me. Just Bradley Cooper's talk with the mental health specialist. I just can't get over that acting that he does. It's so subtle. It's so painful. Just that is one of my favorite things about the movie. And then
It was right where he says, "Your heart is racing, but my hand steady, right?
I literally thought of that though when I was in that.
Of
scene,
course
was
I
like,
did.
The
Sorry,
Departed?
The Departed. Yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio. So unrelated. I just was teasing
Departed.
Nicole. The Departed. Dearly
Um,
Departed.
And I've never wanted to ride a motorcycle more.
Made it look cool.
I've
made it-
never wanted to, period. That's good. When they're in that dome, that is freaky.
Yeah, I don't think I'd ever do that, but I have been dirt biking and it is an absolute blast. Didn't know what I was doing, fell off many times, had to jump start it many times, I stalled
And
it.
then
but-
imagine you just robbed a bank and then you're dirt biking.
Oh.
The adrenaline's got to be out of the roof.
Dude, and hitting at the graveyard or whatever, he hits that median. It's just rough cut. And that's another thing I really like. I like what you said, Cole, about like every day. It is funny that you say that because I'm like, there is a bank heist, there is like shooting, there's generational trauma, just like
live in
everyday
New York.
slice of life stuff. Yeah, every day, regular Tuesday.
Yeah.
But
That whole
it's
cop corruption part. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
that's a whole like this movie feels like it should be like a 10
A TV.
episode
It feels like a
miniseries,
TV series.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what
But it's in the course of a 2 hour. What is this? 2 hour and 10
2:20.
minutes, 20 minutes. Yeah. And it's interesting because to me, yeah, I almost want more or a little less, right? Because so I like the idea of having a miniseries. They should totally do like a Place Beyond the Pine universe because you could do like a whole that crime drama thriller. It just totally works, you know. Oh, you know what? Another movie that reminded me of was Florida Projects. I don't know why, but the Florida Project kind of had the vibe of this, just like watching generational.
White trash.
I mean, you watched that poor kid. What's that?
he said.
I
White
said
trash.
white trash?
White trash.
That's what it reminded you
It's
of?
pretty much white trash.
I was like,
Just-
I think I've seen another white trash film.
Right. But anyway, I just found that really interesting, watching this whole scene play out. Because again, it feels like 3 distinct acts and they follow different leads. And I think that was interesting choice, you know. But again, the third does a really good job at tying it all together. So yeah, very, very cool movie though, stylistically. Jordan, how about you? 2 of your favorite things?
I already mentioned the color palette. Also, Ryan Gosling really. I just absolutely loved the opening shot where it's just behind his shoulder and you're following him. I think it was almost. I'm pretty sure it was one take, but I looked away a few times, so I could have or blinked, like I could have missed it. So, but it was really cool. Kind of reminds me. Once again, I'm talking about Denis Villeneuve, but the scene in Arrival when there's like a shot behind. I love over the shoulder shots when you get to see kind of their environment and like what they do on a daily basis, and you got to live with him like for that whole night and what he does for a job. You get to kind of soak in that environment, which I thought was so fun. Also, cool thing about like over the shoulder shots is like you get to see the back of their head, and sometimes you kind of project your own thoughts into their head, like what are they thinking about, like which I think is really fun. So give them major props for that opening shot. It was great.
Great.
Yeah, and kind of along that, Jordan, I think it's so interesting. And Denny's really good at this, and like a lot of directors that I think make more like character studies are really good at this. There's so much, like sometimes I feel like directors feel like they need to always have dialogue going, but so many times it's like similar to a presentation. Like when you're supposed like to give a good presentation or speech, it's like it's okay to have a little bit of like lull or like time to breathe because that's just like naturally how we talk. But a lot of times you feel like, oh, I need to keep talking. But in this movie, there's so many scenes where like Ryan Gosling and Eva Mendes' like chemistry is nonverbal. Like she'll just like look at him and you see he's like signing like the signatures or whatever, and then he's like looking at her and he's like, all right, I gotta go. And then he's like walks over there, he's like, what's up? Like just things like that where there's not a whole lot of dialogue, but you can see exactly like, oh, these people know each other, or they're like being really flirty. And it's like, or it's kind of like a mix of both. And so kind of just like all those nonverbal cues I think are so interesting and like well depicted in this movie.
Totally. Yeah, it's funny that one YouTuber, Cameron, we watched, he broke down like there's the silent Ryan Gosling, and he plays that similar role in like Drive and Blade Runner. So
Yeah, and Place Beyond the Pines.
So I have a really burning question I wanted to ask you all on the podcast because I have to leave now. But who's a better couple, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, or Eva Mendes and Ryan Gosling? Just thought I'd.
I mean, who's still together?
Oh, yeah, man.
Doesn't that say it all?
Absolutely. Yeah. Anyway, folks, it's been so good seeing you guys. Cole, I love seeing you, bud. Guys, take it easy until this can become my full-time job. You know, I can podcast and just talk about movies all day.
Sorry.
In
Pays the
25
bills.
years.
In 25 years, at the rate we're going, we might have
On
10,
episode
25 more listeners. Yeah.
6005.
No, that's not why we do it, folks. We do this. We bring this entertainment to you because we love you guys. But Cole, it's great seeing you. Jordan, Cameron, not so much. Take it easy, guys. Peace.
I'll start on my two favorite things. Ty had to get in the last word. So like my two favorite things. First thing is just like the juxtaposition of the first shot of Ryan Gosling riding on his like motorcycle or his motorbike, just like through the pines, and just kind of like the feel and the vibe of that. And then like that contrasted at the end with his son almost like living and connecting with his dad. And that's kind of like what the message of connecting with families through complicated situations. Like his dad passed away, he never knew him, and his dad wasn't, he was like sort of involved right as he was right before he died, but before that was kind of like MIA for the first year of his life. And just kind of how it's like that's a way for him to connect to his dad. I just thought it was so cool. And the music as well, which that kind of goes into my second favorite thing. I was really surprised like there was the score as well as the music choices in different parts of the movie. I felt like some of them were like tonally clashing, especially, but that's what I liked. Is like my favorite scene in the movie besides those two shots is when Ryan Gosling's in the church and there's just a choir in the background, and you hear like them doing like the Father's Prayer, and you just see like Ryan Gosling crying. And I just think it's so interesting because you can just see like kind of like Cole was talking, like all the subtle acting that Bradley Cooper did, Ryan Gosling also did in this scene, by just you can just tell him contemplating and like essentially regretting a lot of life decisions he'd made to get to this point where he's just like, my baby is being baptized and essentially like in somebody else's church, and is like up there with somebody else as his dad because like I'm living the way that I do. And you could just see like, I don't know, just a lot of like reflection and like pondering go on without him saying a single word or even like just moving. It's just, I just think just a lot of really subtle acting. And I just think the message in this, like I mentioned, is so cool. And that's why also I feel like makes it really real. And that's why I feel like it's much more hopeful than Blue Valentine. The end of Blue Valentine, I'm like, I don't know if I believe in love anymore. And then and then the end of this one, I'm like, you just make the best of what you're given. It's just like nobody has a perfect relationship with family or like an uncomplicated one. And so I just love that for me, that the end with Bradley Cooper's child is he's like, I'm proud for my dad. Like, and that's the thing too, I think is interesting, is I think the message is that it's more important for parents to be a part of their, or like to have, for the children to have a parent a part of their lives than it is for like the children to feel like, because the children just need to feel like they're a part of their parents' lives. And I feel like that's what the kid felt. He's like, I'm a part of my dad's life. Even though if Bradley Cooper's like, I kind of just do this for like the look or whatever, all that mattered to the kid was like, I feel like a part of my dad's life and not just like a backseat or just like a bystander, like an inconvenience. Because that's what, there was moments where he just like, and you can tell that the kid's been told that by his mom and probably by his dad, that he's just like, do you think this is easy for me right now? I'm like, homie's 17 years old. Think he cares about your freaking campaign, bro? Like, he's not on your PR team. Like, that's not his number one priority, is to make sure that you look good like in the public. So I just thought it was really cool how all of that and all the complications at the end is like, what's most important is that like they stand by each other.
I also liked the kid actors. So one of them's in a movie called Lords of
Harry
Chaos.
Osborn.
Huh? Oh, Harry, that's right. I forgot he's in Spider-Man.
He's also in Chronicle.
Okay, well, I was actually talking about the other one.
Oh.
I got you, Jordan.
He's in a I can't remember his name, but he's in a movie called Lords of Chaos that I really enjoy, and I'll probably never end up reviewing on the pod, so I just thought I'd throw that out there because I really enjoy cult classic movies. Would we recommend this? Or is there any nitpicks? I don't know if you had any.
For me, I would just
think
say
it's
like,
super.
I just wish, kind of like Ty mentioned a little bit, there's almost like too much with not enough like follow up on certain things. So I would have like maybe trimmed down like the runtime to maybe 2 hours, just because I felt like we got such a deep dive into Bradley Cooper's home life. And then it was like, oh, third act. I'm like, oh, clearly they're separated or divorced. I'm like, I guess like all that investment in their relationship just kind of went out the window. And so that's why I feel like a lot of that and a lot of the mental health part that Cole was also like referencing, I felt like that kind of also got pushed to the side because it's like, oh, he's a politician now. Like politicians don't struggle with mental health. I'm like, Hemo definitely is like traumatized from that, and I know it's even more complex because he's probably like suffocating those emotions. He's like, oh no, I'm fine. I can be a politician. I can be an officer. Like, so that was the thing. I just wish there would have been a little either more elaboration or less like deep dive into those things and kind of just get like glazed over that, so we didn't like get as invested, and then it's like more jarring. Like, oh, I guess we just don't care about what happened to his family till like 15 years later or whatever. But can I just say, holy cow, Bradley Cooper's a good looking man. Goodness. Also, Ryan Gosling at the beginning of this movie, I was like, homie is shredded.
He's always shredded.
Yeah, I'm like, he has body goals. Goodness.
That's why he's very dead in that. So
Yeah, facts. But yeah, definitely do recommend. Just go in. That's what I preface my friends with. I'm like, it's just a little jarring. It seems like two movies mixed into one, just because like you're like so invested in Ryan Gosling, and then you're like, he's dead. What? But I also think that's a accurate representation of how it would be for like Eva Mendes. She's just like, oh, this dude's back in my life. Oh, he's gone. That's
Well,
why she has so much
I am
content.
curious, Cole, is there a section that you like better? Because I think the intro personally is just like so gripping. I'm all about heists. I thought that was so good.
oh, totally. No, it grips you.
I just didn't know if by the second act you're like either jarred or if it's like it kind of throws you off, or it's just like in comparison, I don't know if it holds
Because
up.
for me, the first section's 9.5, and then the second act I would say is like an 8. And then I just felt like the first like 2/3 of the third act, I was like, why are we in a high school drama like TV show right now? I was like, I don't understand what's going on. And then the connection back in the final finish, I was like, oh,
yeah, right. You're
but
you're kind of just hanging on to
yeah,
see.
I was just like, is this the same movie that I
What
started
thought
with
was
with
so
Ryan
fun,
Gosling?
like, if you go into this movie, I mean, we've already spoiled it, but if you hear of this movie and you're told that it's a good movie and you're just sitting down for 220 and you're going to watch it and you just have nothing to do and you just experience it and let it unravel, that's why it's one of my favorites, because you just let it happen and you just hear all these things, you learn so much. That's why. So to answer your question, the beginning is very gripping. I love the introduction of Bradley Cooper's character because, and I love how it just kind of just dismisses the first half. It feels like each section is just like, now we're moving on.
Okay.
No, like
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
it really moves. So I mean, Cameron, you kind of said it's maybe a little long for 220, or there's some. You didn't say this, but like dead sections. But
No.
I really love that because I always feel like it's moving. There's always new information.
Well, and see, and kind of to your point, I think also even that the fact of what you're like bringing up, I think that even drives home more the message of kind of similar to Manchester by the Sea, where it's almost like it feels like the heavy parts of it almost get dismissed because it's like, oh, heavy scene, and then it's like, oh, back to normal life. And I feel like that's a good representation because like hard things in life always happen. And like the worst part about it is that life continues on and just doesn't really care. And so kind of similar to what you're saying, it's just like everyone shows grief. It's like, oh, so sorry, Ryan Gosling died. It's like, yeah. After a week, it's like, all right,
we gotta live with it.
again.
Now I got a dad. I don't have a dad. I need to live with that.
Yeah. So I do like that because I feel like it does drive home that message where it's just like, oh, well, that happened in the past, doesn't really matter. Just like it's like, oh, all that cop like drama and like it's like, oh, it doesn't matter. Help me get my campaign going. And it's like, that was a lot of things going on, and you're just gonna like brush it under the rug, like emotionally. I'm like, I mean, whoever feels like best, but I do like that. See, Cole's making me even like it even more.
I do agree. I do like it more.
It's on my top 10. I will stand by it.
Well, because just on the first viewing, it felt like it kind of decrescendoed, but I will admit on a rewatch, I actually liked it a lot better knowing how the story is told, because once you know that, it's like, oh, it's really good. I will admit, I think that's why I asked if you felt like it got better, Cole, because I feel like every time I watch it, I enjoy it more knowing how the story is. So
I mean, yeah, there were, like you both said, there were things that I kind of forgot, but I generally knew what I was getting into, or like, yeah, little bits and pieces, like when does he die, or
yeah. Well, the one thing it's funny, both times I've watched this, I thought I'm like, I swear I've seen this before. Maybe it's just because of Goodfellas. I was like, the scene where they're like, can we go out? I thought they were gonna go to both times. I was like, are they about to take him to and like telling, oh, we gotta take him for some police work? First off, both times I knew, I'm like, there's no way actually police work.
Yeah.
Like they're just lying straight to the woman's face. And then, dude, the most passive aggressive ever. And then they're just like roasting her. And she's like, does she the things they were saying about her or whatever? She's like, she make all the decisions. Like, does she ever put a away at night? I'm like, goodness.
Mhm.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
give
it's
me
the
a little
guy-
PTSD
The-
of being in the doghouse.
see if I can- who played the corrupt cop? I can never remember his name, but he's in Goodfellas.
Just died this year.
Yeah, yeah. Rest in peace.
Ray Liotta DeLuca.
Yeah, Ray Liotta. So
Yeah.
I absolutely loved, like, he plays such a great corrupt cop. He's so good in this. He also plays a corrupt cop in I can remember it, Copland, which is also really fun. And it's I can't say his name, Sylvester Stallone movie. Oh, what was the one? It reminded me of Denzel Washington. What's the one where he's a corrupt cop in that as well?
Training Day.
Training Day. So I
No.
love when they're like, take the money. Like there's a similar scene in Training Days, like, take the money. Like, we need you to be a part of this. I just love that because it's like essentially they use that to blackmail each other and like to keep
Well, I
each
did this
other.
for you, so you got to do this for me. Just break
Yeah.
up a piece of that Coke. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't know if this is exactly even, but okay.
Yeah, there were so many little details like that I just really appreciated this movie for. So
Also, Mahershala Ali. I mean, what, like, he's in it so little, but I think, dude, what an awesome dad. I love it when he's just like that man wasn't your father. Like,
the dad, yeah.
I'm your father. I was like, oh,
I know he's so good to him,
such a
and
stud.
he just like, peace, family.
And he got just hit in the face by a wrench by Ryan Gosling because he's got issues. I was like, hey, yo, he just said, just get the F out of my house because he's building the crib in his house. And he's just like,
Yeah.
wrench. I was like, okay. But yeah, Ben Mendelsohn, or however you say his name, his performance, like, that was why I was super impressed because I think that, like, the only thing that I could remember him from the first time I watched it was The Dark Knight Rises. I just remember him like
Mine's
that.
Rogue
I'm in
One.
charge.
Where is it?
Yeah. And in this one, like, excellent. Like, I like, he almost disappears into the character. I'm like, holy cow, this is like so good. So definitely do recommend. But should we wrap up with
Yeah.
what you've seen lately and things you're looking forward to?
Cole, you want to go first?
Excuse me. What's the section?
What have you seen lately, and what are you looking forward to?
Looking forward to Dune Part 2. I read the book before I saw
Oh,
the movie.
really?
It's one of the most fun book to on-screen experiences that I've had. So I will reread the second half. Very much looking forward to that. Gosh, what have I seen? Come back to me.
Okay,
been-
Cameron. Oh,
I don't know. I don't know. I haven't been on my film game recently. That's why I feel like an outsider on this podcast. I used to be. I mean, I've seen a lot of the things that you referenced, but like, I like being in the know like you guys are, and I haven't tapped into that passion of mine for a while. So I got to think of what movie I watched recently. Come back.
your top 10 list is solid, though. I think the only one I haven't seen is Goldfinch. That's amazing. It's that high.
I need to watch Black Swan too, because isn't the same director as Whiplash, or no?
No, it's the same director that did A Requiem for a Dream, Cameron.
Oh, I'm not watching that.
Yeah.
Ah,
Oh, worst movie. I hate that movie.
I've seen Requiem for a Dream so many times.
shoved it
my
down.
gosh.
Really?
Yeah.
Love it.
I just love everything he's done. The Wrestler's amazing. Black Swan's amazing.
I know. Do
Um,
you love Requiem for a Dream?
Love. I've seen it maybe 100 times, maybe
In
more.
his top 10.
Yeah.
Cole.
100 times.
Yeah, it's in my top 10. And
He-
when I say
he
watched,
mental
sometimes I'll have it playing in the
That's a
background.
third of a year.
Well,
100 times?
while I work, I can play it. I can have it playing in the
Who
background.
wants to work with that love
Exactly.
scene
It-
on a monitor next to them?
Mental health. That's what he needs.
The music is it's perfect. It's so good.
Yeah, that's one good song.
So I watched I watched the second half of She's the Man because my roommates were watching it. Such a good movie. Channing Tatum is one good looking man. And then I watched
Bradley, pick.
Bradley.
I
Yeah, Bradley
cried.
wins.
All right.
And then I watched the Invincible Adam Eve special. It was really good. Depressing as hell, but Jordan knows I love really depressing stuff.
Yeah.
So do recommend. I'm super excited for season 2 of Invincible to come out in November, as well as Gen V. Apparently it's like a The Boys spinoff of like teenagers, and so I'm like, that sounds amazing.
Oh, sorry. What did you say you're watching? Invincible?
Yeah. Well, like season 2 comes out in November.
Yes.
Have you watched any of it?
Yes, I love it.
It's
Yeah.
so
Oh.
good.
No,
They
it's
but they
so
have
good.
there's a spin-off
Okay.
show called Adam Eve. It's on
It's
Amazon
not a
Prime.
show. It's a one episode. It's,
Oh,
it's like a setup for season 2. It just essentially shows her background and like why
Oh.
she's kind of the way she is. And man, is her backstory depressing.
Yeah.
I'm like, why does everyone in this show have the most depressing background? It's like even Mark, who's like the most lovable character's dad, is like, your mom's more like a pet to me. I'm like, oh my god. Oh, I don't want to spoil anything if you haven't gotten far. But
Yeah,
and then I've been watching the Batman, the 2004 animated series because I'm a nerd.
okay.
and
Well,
amazing.
okay. I don't know. We could talk about TV. That's why I was stumped. It's a film podcast. This is
No, we do TV
Futro
shows.
films or Futro TV.
It's just hidden movie gems.
Hidden
Yeah,
gems.
movie gems. Move the word.
Gems.
I get it together. Like this is
And then I also watched something that made it into my top 15, Lahain.
Oh, you finally watched
my
them, my
God.
boy.
oh
Dude,
wait.
Lahain is literally,
Oh no, that's on my list.
I want to rewatch it again. It is like, I was speechless for like,
Wait, Cameron, you got to tell me what movies you're bumping out because you've put 3 movies just in the past month in your top 100. So
Boys got time.
got plenty of that.
you just keep bumping out all these movies. So I'm like, oh, which ones have been falling out of your top 100?
I'll grab that in a sec. But
Okay,
then, but yeah, Lahain. Oh my gosh, just the best one of the best character studies I've ever seen in my life, and just like the most subtle performances. Also, I just love. There's just so much to dissect and like unravel about the movie, and it just blows my mind that it's all in one day. I'm just like,
Yeah.
And I just, it's one of the best movies at showing the complexities of like people. I just love that it shows that there's no such thing as good or bad people. There's just people who do good or bad things at times. And I just think it's so interesting because it's like just the way they talk about cops, and it's like, dude, don't do that for a cop. And like the way they leave it, I don't know. There's just so much. I'm like,
Can we talk
"Oh
about his
my
performance?
God."
Like, I just fell in love with him as an actor. I'm like, holy crap, you are amazing.
Oh yeah.
Main kid.
As well as his friend Hubert. I love how they use their real first names. Like Vincent's a total dog. And just Hubert is, I just love him because I love him. You can tell he's like, the way to stick it to the police is for me to get out of the projects and become like a good man. But then it's like, but in the heat of the moment, you're like, dude, F you. You're freaking like strangling me and my best friend, like abusing me. It's just like, oh, I was like about to jump through the TV to punch the cops. I was like, you freaking douchebags. Yeah, it's whoever, trying to see who directed it. Whoever it is, he's an absolute nerd. And yeah, Matthew, he also wrote it. Matthew Kazovitz, freaking masterpiece. But and then I'm looking forward to, I'm gonna go see Blue Beetle. It's gonna be garbage, but I love Blue Beetle. So
why waste your time and money?
one of my buddies recommended
every time, every new thing. Oh, Guardians is gonna be great. Oh, Thor's gonna be great. Oh, Blue Beetle. It's just like, it's exhausting with you people. Just...
But I'm delusional because the problem is I love DC much more than Marvel. I think Marvel's average at best. I love everything DC.
What is good about DC?
Hey, the animated universe, as well as like the comic book and all those, that is amazing. Everything that's been produced movie wise is
what we're talking
garbage.
about.
That's the problem, is they don't know how to make movies. They know how to make animated movies, but not live action movies. But one of my buddies recommended Gran Turismo. He was like, maybe the best movie of the year. I was like, huh? And I was like, is it better than Across the Spider-Verse? And he was like, no, probably not. But he's like, but probably second best movie he's seen this year. Because he was like, my opinion was, I'm like, I just watched the whole movie watching the trailer. And he was like, that's how I felt. And I went in and he was like, and it was like so much fun and so exciting. So I might have to check that out on $5 Tuesday. Maybe do it back to back to save Blue Beetle because it'll be garbage.
Is it actually $5 for you? Because in the city, it's $8 for me.
Really? No, yeah, it's $5.
$5.
Getting scammed living in New York City.
Yeah. Hey, I have my answer for what I recently watched.
Yes.
I was gonna say Spider-Verse, but it's like, everyone's seen it.
What'd you think? What'd you think?
Everyone has seen also what?
What did you think, Spider-Verse?
Absolutely incredible. We don't need to belabor it. Literally flawless. I also just rewatched that.
Cameron's seen it
I
so
saw
many times.
Oppenheimer, and
Okay.
I feel I'm the only one I've talked to who didn't love it.
Jordan didn't love it.
Thanks, Jordan.
You two
No,
could
I
be
really- I
uncultured
just
together.
thought- here's why I didn't like it, and I think it's so important that you're going into a 3-hour movie. If you don't know that, it's just gonna.
You didn't
I just
know
need to
that?
know that? I need to know that fact. I need to know if I'm going into a 3-hour movie. I thought that the
Should have said a
dialogue-
warning sign. Warning, you're walking into a 3-hour.
Yeah, just like let me know. Yeah.
The guy's selling the tickets too.
Yeah, he's like,
It's 3 hours.
3
Did you know?
hours. Are you sure you want this ticket?
And it was 3 hours of dialogue.
Yeah.
Pace,
Yeah.
pace at a montage pace. What I
Mhm.
mean by that is it never
Slow
chilled
down.
out.
Yeah.
It never had what Place Beyond the Pines is what we're talking about, like just little, just little time
Doesn't
To
believe in
breathe.
breathing.
look at them and like
Yeah.
how do they act when they're not speaking? It just it was unpleasant. I actually fell asleep too. I didn't love it. So I was thinking, it's funny. I opened my blinds this morning and randomly thought about Christopher Nolan and thought about how he's lost me on his 2 recent films. As Interstellar is one of my top films on my list. So,
Me too. Yeah.
so I don't know.
Jordan thinks Dunkirk's his best film, and it's absolute blasphemy.
I said
I don't know that that's blasphemy. I think it's
It's
great
blasphemy. The fact that he made Dark Knight and Jordan put freaking Dunkirk above it, jail.
Says the DC lover. Okay.
yeah. Well, Interstellar is above it, Cameron, but yes, Dunkirk is
Oh
definitely.
wow, you've repented. Good.
It's always been that way. Okay, I'll blow through my list really quick. So I watched a lot of comedies with my wife because she just loves comedies. So I watched Waiting.
Does she believe in watching anything besides comedies?
I know it's it. I know.
That's why anytime I hang out with Jordan, Jordan's like, I just need to watch something really gruesome. This is all we ever watch together.
Yeah, and maybe that's why I love Requiem so much. We've been blowing through because we watched all the best comedies. Now we're going through the kind of the bottom of the barrel. We watched Waiting, Ted, Neighbors.
Oh, I just watched Ted.
Although The Big Short is definitely up there in my top 100. That's a great one we watched. I don't even know if I should call it comedy, but it's definitely hilarious. But
It's got Margot Robbie in it.
so as Craig Zoller said, his favorite movie of all time was Sweet Smell of Success, and so I checked that out.
So you had to like it.
I had to watch it. I sure, love, nah. It's really well. It's got the really well acted and story's good, but oh boy, it's some of these black and white movies, man. I struggle to get into. It's got the guy from. I know it was black and white.
Yeah.
And then it's got the guy from what's the word they dress up like chicks, not white chicks, the old one, some like a hot. So it's got that guy from it. Yeah, there's some moments I'm like, oh, I can see Zoller kind of takes a little bit of this and makes it his own, which is kind of fun. And then I rewatched Cameron the Adam Eve episode with my wife because I was like, this is amazing. We have to watch it together. And then I've kind of been
the brothers is just so tragic.
Oh, I know.
Hated
Oh my
hearing
gosh.
how perfect you were. I was like, oh my.
Yeah, it's so good. I loved it. And then I've been watching some because I really like certain horror directors. And so I'm like, oh, I'm going to check out their work. I really liked Mike Flanagan. So I'm like, I'll watch some of his early movies. So he did OEG, Origin of Evil. Not great, but there's some moments I enjoyed. And then I also like David Sandberg. I watched Annabelle Creation. Some moments were good. I really enjoyed, but it was whatever.
That on during work too? Or?
Most of this, yeah.
Did you really?
Yeah, I just gotta play him in the background, and then yeah, We Some of the Darkness is all right. But I used to have a huge
What's the
crush.
percentage of time? I'm interrupting because I think
No, you're
this is
good.
for
Please.
the viewers. You know,
Yeah.
they've heard your list and what you're talking about, but I want to know you. So, what percentage of time are you sitting down in a dark room, focused, phone away, watching a movie? Of all the movies that you're listing right now and in usual, is it like 70% of the time you're doing that, like a proper sitting, or?
Well, I'd say, but with the ratio, I say I do maybe one movie. Well, It depends because a lot of the stuff I actually do old, like while I'm working, I usually play like The Office
It's
or
not
stuff
rocket
I've already
science.
seen.
Okay.
So I don't know. That's a kind of a hard
Like Harry
thing.
the Seven.
I uh I'd say maybe I want to because once a day is maybe being too generous. The problem is when I sit down to watch a movie, I'll start something and then I'll get like 20 minutes in and I'm like, I don't want to waste my time. And so I'll stop that and I'll start a new movie and then I'll get 20 minutes in. I'm like, and so I just keep jumping around. So
Mental.
I know I'm weird. Anyways, but so
Weird.
most of the movies that I can actually like get through are when I'm working because it's like I'm doing other things. But
Right.
when I have my time, it's so precious to me.
What
I'm
if
like,
you watch a good movie while you're working, and then you're like, oh crap, I gave that. Like if you watch this movie the first time, A Place Beyond the Pines, while working, I would
no,
feel
no,
bad for you because
no.
I
If
don't
it's
know.
a
I'm not saying you did, but just
yeah,
that's. Do you
no,
select? Oh, this is a work movie.
yes, yes. I'm
Okay.
very specific. I pick movies that are like I know I do some research ahead of time. I'm like, okay, who was it directed by? And is it somebody I'm anticipating? I'll go see those movies in the theater in a big room and make sure I'm enjoying everything. I don't want anybody talking. And then those are the types of movies I save for.
But
What
something like
happens?
Barbie, Jordan will watch it on the go.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe I saw the theater. So, but there's some movies, Cole, that I'll start because I thought it was a bad movie, but as I'm listening and kind of watching, I'm like, oh, this is good. So I'll save this for later. And then I go home and watch it. So it just
He's pretty much
depends.
a movie. He's pretty much a movie machine.
I know I have
I just
no
think that's interesting. I think I mean you are like you love movies, and so
yeah.
there's no right way to watch them. I think, but
I watched the foreign version of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I think David Fincher's version is better. There's little differences, Cameron, that I think you'll find interesting. There was no
There's less.
yeah.
If there's less, then I'm very
Oh gosh.
interested.
Okay. Have you seen it, Cole? I won't say anything if you
it's a
haven't.
great movie. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Then so in the foreign version at the very end, the girl actually never tries to go back to him and brings
God
him.
bless. That made no sense. I'm like,
Yeah.
why are you like so desperate? Like, I made this suit for you. I'm like, kill yourself, okay? You're
Yeah,
not that-
she actually just walks off into the distance and he's like, I know she did it. I know she was. And also the interesting part,
did
Ty,
what?
remember she like put on a wig and like showed up and stole all that guy's money and then like set him up to I can't
Man, I don't remember.
You don't remember?
I
Okay,
blocked
well
out everything that wasn't the perfect middle part. The
Okay.
but everything else, I was like, ah.
Okay, well, something interesting is also another big change is, Daniel Craig figures it out before, and remember, he's like, come in my house. And you're like, oh, don't go in. But he knows, but in the foreign version, he actually doesn't know that the killer's a bad guy. So he's actually talking to him and
Figures it out as he's talking.
no, well, he basically, I think he just starts plummeling him and then he realizes like, oh crap, I'm
Oh,
screwed.
maybe this isn't a regular citizen.
Well, because
I feel like that makes much less tension, no?
well, it's like
It's like the Hitchcock, what he says, like with the you have to show the bomb under the chair.
well, see, as an audience, you figure it out, but you're just like, oh no, get away from him. He doesn't know.
Okay, so you're still aware.
Yeah, because the girl figures
He's
it out.
not. Oh, okay, bet.
Yeah, because they actually show there's a photo they're looking at, and there's like a balloon. Anyways, in this version, there's no balloon blocking the guy's face, so you can actually see the kid's face. So,
Oh wow.
but he still can't put the pieces together of who it is. But
I'm trying to look up what's the language it's in.
Swedish, thank you.
Uh,
And the reason I watched it is because we just watched what happened to Monday, and so I'm like, oh, I want to watch more movies by her. But yeah, overall, I'd say I like David Fincher's version better. Even though there was a few moments. Oh, and there's a lot of flashbacks, Cameron. You actually get to see her backstory. She actually lights a person on fire when she was a kid. She just
Yeah, that checks out. That checks out. That checks out very much.
I'm like, what the crap? This chick is nuts. Like I already thought she was weird, but man, she is
Dude,
crazy in the porn
Favorite
version.
quote of that movie is easily when he's just like, "You were more afraid to offend me, like
Yeah.
by not coming in my house than to risk your life." And I was just like,
Last big change, because that was never in the foreign version, so it's the part you loved the
Oh.
most. The last part that was really big was Daniel Craig. He actually had a connection with that family. He was actually babysat by them. That was completely erased. Yeah, that was pretty crazy.
That's
Yeah. So, anyways, and then
and he wasn't thrown in the dungeon.
jeez. Okay.
How are your blessings, I guess. Oh my goodness.
I love Neil Marshall's The Descent. Cameron knows. I made him watch that.
That movie is
a horror? Is that
traumatizing.
horror?
Yeah. Have you seen?
Yes. No, that is a trailer that's haunted my middle school life. Is it
Oh,
good?
Oh my gosh, I love it. It's so
Yeah.
good.
It
Can't.
looks
I mean,
fun.
if you like horror movies, though, you have to like.
Well, and it's just grimy and real, and I just hate. It's just like cave
Okay, good.
people.
Claustrophobic.
I'm glad you just said that.
This director, I love. I mean, I don't know if I say. I just love that movie. I've watched all his other movies, hoping one day I'll find something as good. And I just watched his newest movie called The Lair. It reminds me a lot of his first movie, which is Dog Soldiers, which is just kind of like a monster. I mean, terrible acting, but kind of fun gore a little bit. And I think that about covers it of everything I've seen lately, guys. And I'm also looking forward to Dune. I'm gonna see Equalizer, not because I want to, but because a friend is like loves it. I love the first one. Second one had some good parts, diminishing returns.
Is Equalizer Stallone?
No, Denzel Washington.
Fine guy.
I'm thinking of Expendables. Am I thinking of Expendables? Is that
podcast?
What
is that Expendables? Is that Sylvester?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it's like basically every action hero.
Yeah, I feel like it's just like mushed into one. It's like the A-Team on steroids.
Yeah. I know it sounds like a perfect recipe, but it's garbage.
I'm really motivated to get back in the movies. Thank you for this.
Good to hear. Hopefully we'll watch Memento with my roommates. Drew keeps being weird about wanting to watch it.
What?
Yeah, I'm just like, it's excellent. I'm like, it's Christopher. I'm like, and he really liked Oppenheimer. I'm like, it's Oppenheimer, but better. I'm like, it's the confusing splicing and black and white. I'm like, except better. And Cole, if you haven't seen the YouTube video of Nolan trying to explain Memento, you need to watch it because
I think I have. Yeah.
it's so confusing. It's so much more confusing than the movie. It's horrific. It's so beautiful. You can just see like the mind of a genius. It reminds me of Oppenheimer, of how what's his name, like he just can't explain it to like a regular humans. That's him. He's like, so it's like you splice it and it's a U, and then I'm just like, just stop speaking. You're making it more confusing. Yeah, I think that's everything. Jordan, I'll send you a trailer of Gen V if it looks any good.
Well, they also have a spin-off cartoon series. I was wondering if you were going to watch that.
Oh, maybe.
Peace, everybody.
Later.